Welcome to the Three Martini Lunch. Grab a stool next to Greg Columbus of Radio America and Jim Garrity of National Review. Three Martinis coming up.
Very glad you're with us for the Tuesday edition of the Three Martini Lunch. Jim Garrity is still away dealing with the tree that fell on his house over the weekend. Again, everyone is fine, but it's obviously a major nuisance. Jim does plan to be back tomorrow. But here in his place once again today, Scot Bertram, General Manager, WRFH, Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 FM on the campus of Hillsdale College, where he also directs Hillsdale's podcast network and is host of the Radio Free Hillsdale Hour, host of several other podcasts, including Wasn't That Special, 50 Years of Saturday Night Lives. And Scott, great to have you with us again.
Good to be here. Good to not have a tree problem.
Yes, exactly. And so hopefully all of that is sorted out quickly or as quickly as possible. Dealing with insurance companies and timing up with contractors is never fun. But I'm sure we'll get a lot more details from Jim about that tomorrow. Quick follow-up on yesterday before we get going into our big three martinis today. Scott, you would think the media would have learned. They never learn. We should know that by now. You'd think after all the admitted revelations, and like we said, there's so many more to come about his cognitive impairment over the past 4 years when it comes to Joe Biden, that there would be natural skepticism about the timing, especially with the books coming out today. The announcement a couple of days ago about his aggressive prostate cancer. And so NBC, for example, leads with this. An initial wave of bipartisan sympathy for Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis has started to ebb, giving way to suggestions from Donald Trump's allies that the former president's inner circle masked his condition while he was in office to create an illusion that he was still up to the job. And then later on, it says, the alarming news of Biden's illness coupled with the damage to Biden world's credibility when it comes to his fitness are the tinder for unfounded speculation that he knew he was sick and concealed it until he left office. And then we had this on the CBS morning show today. You had Dr. Celine Gounder about why this could have happened. First of all, she says, Biden's over 70, and after 70, they don't really screen for this much anymore because it's usually a very slow advancing cancer once you get to that age. And then one of the hosts asked her about PSA tests, and she also kind of discounted that idea as well.
So there's something that we call a PSA test, but that can also be indicative of many different things. It could just be you have an enlarged prostate. Maybe you have a low-grade infection in the prostate. There are many things that can cause that. And so this is, again, why after a certain age, doctors will typically stop screening for prostate cancer.
Scott, that may be true to some extent. I know you can get some false or misleading numbers from PSA tests from time to time. It just feels like, though, that they're in this mode of, how dare you question anything? The methodology of examining the president, the timing of the announcement, how dare you? Never mind all this noise over here. That's basically proof that they've been doing this for a while.
Sure. How dare you consider a conspiracy about the president's health after a conspiracy about the president's health? Right. I don't understand the argument that there were certain tests that weren't given to the president, or we didn't do this, didn't check that. He's the president of the United States, and I am not in the mindset to believe that the greatest care afforded to the most important man in the country isn't given. What, you don't do it because it costs too much? You want to cut down on what you're spending? Joe Biden's doctor is the original Doge team inside the Biden administration. We can't do that test. That costs too. I don't care if he's the president. We have to save the taxpayers' money. I don't believe it. And I don't think most of the American people are going to be very, very willing to suspend that disbelief that, oh, yeah, I guess it's possible they didn't do this test on the president. It is important for the country that the president is in tip-top shape. It is important for the president that he knows what health problems he might be dealing with, what could be ahead, especially someone of that age. I just don't believe it. And it should not be crazy anymore, not that it ever should have been, for you to say, I don't believe them when they talk about the president's health, because they clearly weren't telling any of us the truth about the president's health for many, many years.
Again, the media has learned absolutely nothing. But I'll tell you, we can learn a lot, and that's at Hillsdale College, where I'm a grad, and Scott teaches right now, as we mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. And so in addition to being able to send your kids there, or maybe you're of the age where you'd be interested in attending Hillsdale, but you can also learn a lot from Hillsdale College without spending a dime. And that's because they've got these fantastic free online courses. And the latest one is Understanding Capitalism.
Understanding Capitalism is the new one, as you said. Now, if you haven't taken an online course, perhaps in a couple of years, you'll be pleasantly surprised by the look and feel of the courses these days. You know, years ago, Greg, when we started, it was very much a kind of single camera classroom lecture format, which you still got the knowledge. But the way that our great video team here produces these courses now is outstanding. You'll be entertained and informed by the new Understanding Capitalism course from Hillsdale College. And it's all brought to you by one of our great economics professors, my friend, Dr. Charles Steele, who is an ultra marathoner. He'll run like 50 miles, 100 miles. I won't run from my couch to the television, not even if I lost the remote control. And Dr. Steele is running 100 miles for fun on the weekend. And he's a great economist, and you'll learn a lot from him taking this online course.
Makes me wonder if he did all 7 lectures on the same day then, if he's the ultra marathoner. But right now, go to hillsdale.edu/martini to enroll in this course, Understanding Capitalism. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/martini to enroll for free. All right, Scott, let's get to our first martini. I would qualify this as a good martini, but it's also going to be a controversial martini. Last night, we got word from Alina Habba. She is the U.S. Attorney for New Jersey, and she announced that Mayor Ross Baraka, who was arrested at the time that the Democrats tried to barge their way into that ICE facility a couple of weeks ago in New Jersey, he will not, in fact, be facing misdemeanor charges of trespassing. But, of course, there were the other 3 Democrats there from the House of Representatives, and one of them is being charged. In this statement, Alina Habba says Representative LaMonica McIver assaulted, impeded, and interfered with law enforcement in violation of Title 18. That conduct cannot be overlooked by the chief federal law enforcement official in the state of New Jersey, and it is my constitutional obligation to ensure that our federal law enforcement is protected when executing their duties. Also importantly, she says she persistently made efforts to address these issues without bringing criminal charges and have given Representative McIver every opportunity to come to a resolution, but she has unfortunately declined. Not sure if that meant a misdemeanor plea bargain or some other arrangement to make the felony charge go away. The Democratic leadership, several of them, issuing a joint statement here saying the criminal charge against Congresswoman LaMonica McIver is extreme, morally bankrupt, and lacks any basis in law or fact. They say that she did not assault anyone. The tape certainly seems to dispute that. That say actually she and the other Democrats were aggressively mistreated by illegally masked individuals. They point out that she and the other Democrats eventually did get their tour that day of the ICE facility, which proves that they didn't need to be obnoxious about showing up there. They would have gotten it if they had just acted like adults. But what comes next is also a curious question, Scott, because in the last paragraph, it says, an attack on one of us is an attack on the American people. House Democrats will respond vigorously in the days to come at a time, place, and manner of our choosing. Sounds like George W. Bush talking to Al-Qaeda here, but we'll see what they have in mind. Here's what Hakeem Jeffries said at the mere suggestion a few days ago that there could be some charges filed against a Democratic member of Congress.
What happens if they were to go and arrest these members, or if they would try to sanction them during the House of Representatives?
They'll find out.
What would you do, though? What recourse? But doesn't that broach a...
They'll find out.
Doesn't that go across...
That's a red line.
What's the red line, though? I know we have this...
It's a red line. It's very clear.
So they'll find out, and it's a red line. Scott, look at this video. It's a little bit like the league going in to look at a fight in the NFL and try to hand out fines, or an NCAA ref checking to see if it's a flagrant 1 or a flagrant 2. But it's obvious that the Democrats showed up that day looking for a fight of some format. They got it, and now there's some consequences since Congresswoman McIver doesn't seem to want to play ball at all with the district attorney.
It's been a few days since I watched. This is the one where she's wearing red, right?
Yeah.
You cannot miss her activities in this video, which makes it much easier for the review process. This is, you have 2 hats, right? And the one hat says, no one is above the law. On the other hat says, Banana Republic. And Democrats now just take turns taking one off and putting the other one on. When Donald Trump's involved, no one is above the law. When it is fellow Democrats, then banana republic if you decide to arrest us for breaking the law. You can go back. I remembered as you were talking the Jamal Bowman incident, right, where he pulled the fire alarm to prevent a vote in the House. You have that incident. You've got the judge in Wisconsin a couple of weeks ago who helped shepherd the illegal immigrant who was about to be arrested through her chambers and out a back door so he wouldn't have to face those authorities who were there to arrest him. She was arrested, and of course you heard that's banana republic type stuff. You arrest a judge. You can't do that in a country like ours. And then this, which the video is clear. If you are trying to enter a secure facility, if you're then fighting with guards, there should be consequences, and there are going to be consequences now. And it sounds like, as you mentioned, there was an attempt to evade something quite this public, maybe some plea or some negotiation behind the scenes that was rejected. And so, people aren't above the law. If you break the law and it's crystal clear and the country sees it and there's video, it goes back to if you don't punish something, you will get more of it. All these college campuses across the country where we have protests and sometimes violent protests and anti-Semitism. If you don't do anything about it, you're going to get more of it. If you don't stop this kind of activity on behalf of even our elected officials, you're going to get more of it. And, Hakeem Jeffries saying you'll find out what they're going to sit on the steps of Congress like they did a couple weeks ago. I'm not sure what options they have other than letting this process play out in a court of law, which is where it should at this point.
There's not much you can do in the minority of the House of Representatives. I think you and I have about as much power as the Democratic minority. The majority really does run the show there. So, they can hold protests. They can have temper tantrums. They can boycott certain things, I guess. But that's not going to stop anything from happening. Maybe he's just talking about what could happen in the next election. I don't know. But I like your reference to the Wisconsin judge. I think this is exactly right, because the argument from the Democrats in both of these situations is you can't criminalize them doing their jobs. They weren't doing their jobs in those moments. The judge it wasn't her job to help this guy escape from the courthouse. Mm-hmm. And yes, the representatives do have the right to go conduct oversight at this facility, but they don't have the right to assault people.
And then very quickly, another example of no one is above the law except Democrats in Michigan. Jocelyn Benson's our current Secretary of State here. She's running for governor. And she decided to make that announcement in the Richard H. Austin building, a state-owned building. And you can't do that. It's a campaign finance violation. And a Republican filed a complaint about this after it took place. And I remember, as it happened, you had both Democrats and the media, though I repeat myself, being very like, what is this person talking about? It's such a small potatoes thing. No, it's not a problem. It was cold outside. She just wanted the reporters not to be cold. It's no big deal. And Dana Nessel, a fellow Democrat, the attorney general here in Michigan, found yesterday that Jocelyn Benson did indeed break the state's campaign finance law. But guess what, Greg? No punishment. Sorry. It would be impossible because of what might be a, quote, legislative oversight. The subsection of the law that applies to the Secretary of State allows the Attorney General to decide whether a violation occurred, but does not include language on imposing a penalty. So she did, in fact, have a campaign finance violation, but there will be no penalty.
That trio, Whitmer, Nessel, and Benson, has been quite the disaster for Michigan, and at least two of them want a promotion. I don't know what Dana Nessel's future plans are, but hopefully they have nothing to do with public service. That would definitely be preferred. This podcast is sponsored by BetterHelp, and don't look now, but we are in the second half of May, which means we're getting pretty close to the middle of the year. What were your goals at the beginning of the year? Whether personal, professional, whatever it might be, are you on pace to meet those goals? Or is it time to look for some extra help? And that's where BetterHelp can come in. And May is also Mental Health Awareness Month, and still there's a stigma about this. 26% of Americans who participated in a recent survey say they have avoided seeking mental health support due to fear of judgment. But let BetterHelp help you. BetterHelp has more than 10 years of experience matching people with the right therapist from their diverse network of more than 30,000 licensed therapists with a wide range of specialties. Plus, BetterHelp is fully online, making therapy affordable and convenient, serving more than 4 million people worldwide. You can also easily switch therapists at any time and at no extra cost. We are all better with help. Visit betterhelp.com/3ML to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/3ML. All right, Chicago, step right up for our, I guess this is kind of a mixed martini. It's certainly started bad. It's getting a little bit better now. We talked yesterday about Chicago schools, but there's also Chicago city government. Brandon Johnson, last I saw, Scott, you may have seen more updated numbers, was standing at a 7% approval rating in Chicago, which is, basically double the margin of error. Anyway, if you're in single digits, it's not going well. He was at an event at a church a number of days ago, and he was asked about the number of black people that are being hired for his administration. Now, the smart answer would be is that I'm looking for the best people to fill these jobs, and these are the right people for the jobs, so I hired them. But that's not what Brandon Johnson said.
Some detractors that will push back on me and say, the only thing that the mayor talks about is the hiring of black people. No, what I'm saying is when you hire our people, we always look out for everybody else. We are the most generous people on the planet. I don't know too many cultures that have play cousins. That's how generous we are. We just make somebody a family member, right? That's just how we are. And so business and economic neighborhood development, the deputy mayor is a black woman. Department of Planning and Development is a black woman. Infrastructure deputy mayor is a black woman. Chief operations officer is a black man. Budget director is a black woman. Senior advisor is a black man.
And so WGN now reporting, among others, that the Justice Department yesterday announced an investigation into whether Mayor Brandon Johnson's administration made hiring decisions based on race. In the letter, the Justice Department's Civil Rights Division, which is now led by Harmeet Dillon, says, quote, when the Attorney General has reasonable cause to believe that a state or local government employer is engaged in a pattern or practice of discrimination in violation of Title VII, it is the Attorney General's responsibility to take appropriate action to eliminate the violation, including seeking injunctive relief. Our investigation is based on information suggesting you made hiring decisions solely on the basis of race. So, Scott, I don't know how this is going to sort out. I'm sure Brandon Johnson will have some sort of different explanation for what he said the other day. We do know that his administration is spiraling in a number of different ways. The people of Chicago are very dissatisfied. And once again, he seems to have stepped in it. But he stepped in it many times before. I specifically remember him being upset that people were upset about a group of marauding teenagers who were causing a bunch of mayhem in the Loop a couple of years ago. So this is a guy who seems pretty tone deaf on any criticism coming his way.
Well, when you have a 7% approval rating in the city of Chicago, that means it's not just Republicans, conservatives who are against you, because that might add up to a total of 7%. You have a whole lot of people in the middle and a whole lot of Democrats and even a whole lot of liberals who aren't happy with the way you're running the city. And he's only halfway done. He's got 2 more years to go before Chicago can fix this mistake. They went from Mayor Daley to Rahm Emanuel to Lori Lightfoot and now to Brandon Johnson. You might be able to explain this away if not for Brandon Johnson's myriad comments in which his worldview is one based on race. Every time he talks about his administration, it's through a racial lens. If someone is critical of him, it's because that person is looking at him through a racial lens. It always comes back to race for Brandon Johnson. And when you look at what he said, one of the ways, just flip out black for white, see if you think it sounds good. The only thing the mayor talks about is hiring white people. What I'm saying is when you hire white people, we look out for everybody else. We're the most generous people on the planet. This is just how we white people are. It would be utterly ridiculous to look at that. Oh, yeah, that sounds okay. And then when he goes down and starts listing off all the top positions that are filled by a black woman or a black man, he's not saying that he hired the people because they are the most qualified to get the job done based on what he said just seconds before. He's saying he hired them because black people are the most generous people on the planet. This is how we are. We look out for the long-term interest of everyone. He's literally connecting the reason why he's making the point that there are black women and black men in these individual positions. As you said, it's very easy for someone somewhat more savvy to simply say, we're looking for the best people to fill these positions, and this is how it happened to end up, and we're really happy with the people we have in these jobs. And Brandon Johnson didn't do that. He said, black people look out for everybody else. We're the most generous people on the planet. And then he listed all the black women and black men in the administration. I don't think it's crazy to look at those comments and look at the possibility of discrimination in hiring. And the statement even says there are no conclusions that have been reached. We want more information about the city's hiring decisions. I don't think that's a ridiculous request to make based on the comments that Chicago's mayor made.
Yeah, the story here also says that 34% of city employees are black, 30% are white, 24% Hispanic, 7% Asian, 5% are two or more ethnicities. Not even sure why they need to track that, but apparently they do.
Johnson's probably happy because this gives him another arrow to shoot in terms of, well, you should be for me because Trump's against me and the Trump administration is against me. Anything he can use to sort of pull on that rope is welcome, I would imagine.
That might get him to double digits. Maybe. Well, there's a lot of things in this world better than Brandon Johnson and his performance as mayor of Chicago, but one of the really great things out there, Fast Growing Trees, the biggest online nursery in the United States with thousands of different plants and more than 2 million happy customers. Count the Corumbus family among those 2 million. We've been very happy with everything we've gotten from Fast Growing Trees, from fig trees to monstera plants, lemon plants, spice plants, and now we've got the snake plant, which arrived in fantastic condition, already brightening up the home. Plus, with Fast Growing Trees, you're supporting an American company that partners with American growers. So this spring, get up to 50% off select plants at fastgrowingtrees.com/martini. Plus, use the code Martini at checkout for an extra 15% off your first purchase. Visit fastgrowingtrees.com/martini and use the code Martini. Now is the perfect time to plant. Offer valid for a limited time. Terms apply. fastgrowingtrees.com/martini. All right, Scott, on to our crazy martini now. And this one probably hits close to home for you because it's related to college students. But I'm pretty sure the college students we're going to be talking about in this Chronicle of Higher Education article are not the type of students you're working with on a day-to-day basis at Hillsdale. But this excerpt is related to investigation into how artificial intelligence is impacting academics, academic integrity especially, and how it's impacting student performance. And so the article says, earlier this semester, an NYU, New York University professor, explained how he had AI-proofed his assignments only to have the students complain that the work was too hard. When he told them those were standard assignments, just worded so current AI would fail to answer them, they said he was interfering with their quote-unquote learning styles. A student asked for an extension on the grounds that ChatGPT was down the day the assignment was due. Another said about work on a problem set, quote, "You're asking me to go from point A to point B. Why wouldn't I use a car to get there?" unquote. And another, when asked about their largely AI-written work, replied, quote, "Everyone is doing it." These are stories from a 15-minute conversation with a single professor. Scott, I especially love the one where the ChatGPT was down the day the assignment was due. So you're not only confessing that you're using ChatGPT to do your work, but you didn't even start until the day that it was due. That's always welcome news for a professor. What do you make of this, and how is this being addressed at Hillsdale?
I just had a conversation about this, about AI and use of AI, and it is a big topic of conversation, both here on campus and which is just with people, with people who either sort of don't understand what it can do, a little afraid of what it can do, haven't really tried to see how it could be useful in their lives. So there's a lot of moving parts here. With this, with college students, I'm not sure how surprised we should be. Remember the conversations about whether or not you should have a calculator in the classroom? Those quaint conversations when you and I were in grade school. Why? I don't have to do this. I have a calculator. I can figure out this. I don't have to do it by hand. It's a little more in depth at this point. But we talked yesterday about students who are not, prepared when they leave high school to enter college. There was an Atlantic piece late last year talking with people at Columbia University, a professor at Columbia University who was assigning books, novels to the class, and the students had never read a book before, cover to cover, in high school. They were not assigned books to read, and so had no idea how to work and comprehend a chapter book. These are problems, and they're not going to get easier with AI. I can tell you that for sure because I use AI. My 12-year-old is in 6th grade, and he's reading novels in his class, and I want to help him at home. I don't have time to read along with them, although sometimes I do. If I don't, I can go to AI. We read The Hobbit, right? And I'm like, give me a summary of The Hobbit. What are some questions I can ask about The Hobbit? And it's pretty useful for me, but I'm a dad trying to help. If I'm a kid, it's just as easy to do that and get those answers. And so, yeah, there's a lot of conversation here at Hillsdale about how to AI-proof classes. And we have the honor code here. It's it's different here than it is in other places. Doesn't mean we don't have to sort of look out for things. It's very easy to say oral exams, which I think Dr. Arndt has publicly talked about a little bit, sort of changing the way we do final exams to make them perhaps oral exams, or blue book exams, as I'm sure that you're used to having been here at Hillsdale. Right? You sit in class, you write things out yourself. Those are ways to evade the literal use of AI to reach those answers and to have a paper that you turn in. Because AI is getting good. There are ways you can go and say, is this written by AI? I understand. But I've seen some stuff, and even a year ago when I saw AI written stuff, I'd look, well, you can sort of tell this phrase isn't right. And I've seen it where if you keep feeding it your writing and it keeps improving, it gets closer to something that is very hard by the naked eye for a professor to sort of look and say, oh, that's certainly something that's created by AI. Part of this goes to the student, him or herself, though. What do you want to get out of your experience at college?
Yep.
Are you there to get this, certificate when you're done that says you were here for 4 years and got these particular grades, or do you really want to learn something? And thankfully, a vast majority of students here at Hillsdale are here to really learn something, learning for the sake of learning, to know things, to understand things, and to know how to keep that going throughout life. So I cannot say we're immune to any of it, but we're certainly in a better position. And we have been thinking about this for some time now, too.
No, it's important that you do, because there's always going to be some who try to pull it off no matter what the institution is. And so, we use ChatGPT for various reasons at Radio America, and stuff it spits out, and you're like, forget it, I'll just do it myself, because
that's the thing. So when I'm helping my son with his homework, right? The Hobbit was easy because The Hobbit's very well known, and there's all sorts of summaries that AI can find. But he was reading this other book that was not as well known, although a very good book. I read it, and when I asked AI for some info, AI had to sort of take a combination, a amalgam of stuff from different chapters. So if I said, "Tell me the answer to this question," it may have pulled an answer from a different chapter than the one we were reading, right? So the thing about AI is it's not always right. So, right, to rely on it completely seems foolish at this point, too.
There are ways that it is helpful and can save time as you teach it how to think like you a little bit. But you're right about the college experience, too. I mean, writing a paper is not just about writing a paper. It's teaching you how to research. It's teaching you how to organize. It's teaching you to, if it's a persuasive essay, for example, how to think and rationalize. And then the writing is certainly a part of it as well. You want to be a good writer, and that's an important part of life too. But to just think about the writing is missing out on a big chunk of what education is supposed to be about. So you guys are doing it right. I'm not surprised by that at all. And as always, Scott, I'm grateful for your time with us and subbing for Jim, and I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Scot Bertram is the general manager of WRFH, Radio Free Hillsdale, 101.7 on the campus of Hillsdale College. He is also the director of the Hillsdale College Podcast Network, host of the Radio Free Hillsdale Hour, and a number of other podcasts, including Wasn't That Special, 50 Years of Saturday Night Live. Jim Garrity should be back tomorrow. You'll hear all about the tree, I'm guessing, when we are reconvened with him. In the meantime, please subscribe to the 3 Martini Lunch podcast. If you don't already, tell your friends about us as well. Thanks also for your 5-star ratings and your kind reviews. Please keep those coming. Get us on your home devices. All you have to say is play 3 Martini Lunch podcast. Follow all of us on X. Scott is at Scot Bertram with 1 T in Scott. Jim is at Jim Garrity. I'm at Greg Columbus. Have a terrific Tuesday. Join us again Wednesday for the next 3 Martini Lunch.